Hello everybody, welcome to the Making of Sämäs behind the scenes video.
Yes. I am Asia, aka Azia.
And I am Sam, aka Skade, and we are the creators of the show.
Give me that rhythm, that ancient beating sound. The beat runs heavy, leap down, rock steady me ground.
We're gonna go on a little deep dive as to how this all came to be, and I guess what it means to us will definitely come up as well.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll cry at some point. The year was 2020. What's funny, a lot of people ask us how long we've been playing music together, and I think they're surprised to find out that it hasn't been very long. But as soon as we started working together, it was like,
hello?
And yeah, that happened with when I got hired to be in Serena in 2020.
There seemed to be something that was like, wait, you hear music the same way, and it just made working on everything super easy. This one came into both Serena and Valkyric like she had been doing them since birth. Like, it took her no effort.
I would sometimes in my living room do them, but that's a different story. Especially musically and creatively, we clicked right away in working on both Serena and Valkyric.
Well, one of the first things that happened, I remembered, was just wanting to kind of like branch off in a new direction, to be able to write music that was geared towards like both of us and what we believe about music. And another thing I remember wanting to capitalize on is the fact that we both happened to be tap dancers.
Yes, as soon as that became a thing, we were like,
wait a minute.
What are the odds of that? Both of us had sort of separately had visions of incorporating tap dance as a percussion instrument, wanting to do some kind of like big electric tap dance.
Yes. Because when I was in college, I remember somebody asked me like, what is your like fantasy dream? And at that point I was like having these conflicts between, do I want to be like a musician or do I want to be some sort of rock star tap dancer that could make tap into a rock concert?
That's where I was at like 18.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we both like independently had this vision of like, how do we make tap an integral like music concert show thing, to the point where I even like tried in college making a dance that was like that. It kind of worked. Once we found each other, we were kind of like, let's build music that incorporates this.
Tap dancing, I think, for both of us is a very sort of cathartic. It's much more than just the like presentational art form. Definitely is a big connecting tool for us to other people, us to like the ground. I don't know, tap dancing is good for that.
One of the things that we bonded on right away was that music comes from something greater, something like cosmically fueled, whether you want to call it God, the creator, the universe, whatever. Like, I've always felt that whenever I'm writing music, it comes from that sort of place. And in talking to Asia, she so closely identified with that and sent me an email at like 4 a.m. that was like pages long about like, okay, but really.
I would be more embarrassed about it if it wasn't totally necessary that I sent that email, because that's how strongly I felt. And we hadn't even really, I feel like, talked about this stuff to a great extent.
Yeah, not a lot.
I was like, you're a vessel of light music, and it's very important that you know that. I think we both felt, even before this show got created, that there was a different sort of palpable energy on stage when we were performing together, like, yeah. And I even for, not just like in the whole area, but even for like myself, I remember singing like a ride once, and I remember like I was like dissociating, like having visions of horses and all these things, and I was like, I gotta like I gotta come back to this moment. But it really is such powerful, you write such powerful music that I think we started to notice that there was something there. There was something greater that we could play around with. And thus we sort of started to fantasize about...
Yeah, I remember it wasn't like a quick... Because at that point we were still doing Serena and Valkyric, so there was never this moment of like, let's stop doing that and start doing this. It was kind of like I remember sending you Snapchats early on of just like song ideas.
The mountains call and the stone gives way. I hear calling.
And the way that like Sämäs like actually came about was once once Serena and Valkyric was done, there was one Renaissance festival that reached out to me that was like, hey, what else are you doing? We're interested. And at that point, this was all just an idea, and it was kind of like, I knew in theory we could put something together, so I just emailed back and was like, well, here's the concept of what we're going for, and they were like, great, you're hired. I was like,
So we're like, oh, I guess
we
we'll
should
put together a show. And we were in contact pretty regularly up until then, just kind of brainstorming ideas. We had a Pinterest board put together. I think you found the tap boards.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I found the tap boards, and we got them early.
Yeah, you sent me the link for that. We were looking up different tap boots for a long time and ended up finding the block ones and going with those. So even the months, like well before we even had the show put together, we were like, okay, how do we even acquire the elements
that we need to do this?
Yeah.
Well, and like even the drums, because for a long time I was just going to use the leftover drums that I had like inherited from Serena and Valkyric, and then out of nowhere, Tommy found on Facebook Marketplace, he was like, hey, there's this guy in Asheville who's selling this drum kit, do you want to look at it? And I was in drumming lessons at the time, and I was like, it would be so nice to have like a real kit to play on. So we look, and it's like this guy is selling this like student Ludwig kit for like $300, and it was red, so not at all the colors we needed, but
it worked.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden it was like, when putting stuff together, I was like, well, I don't really want to use these old drums when I have this actual drum kit. So we just kind of, and it happened to come with an extra bass drum.
Yeah,
like,
which was perfect, because we could both have the kick. Funny enough, when we were playing around with names, I remember it was your husband, Tommy, who made all the cool pendants and horn, dagger, sword stuff on the Kickstarter. He jokingly, but not so jokingly, was like, what if you just called it Samasia? And we were like, ha ha ha. But wait.
I remember telling you, like, haha, Tommy called it this, and then you were like, but what if we, like, dropped the last two letters of my name and it was this cool palindrome thing?
And then my husband, Mark, kept going, sämäs. And, like, he kept doing it in such a way that had this, like, gravitas, so I was like, it actually sounds really cool when you say it. From the beginning, saw more people involved and even had the boys in mind for that. I remember being at like La Piñata or something and being like, Sam, Asia, Mark, Arnie, St. Patty, sämäs.
From the very beginning, we've wanted to do this with kind of a bigger group of people. We know so many talented musicians and people specifically who like get music the same way, and if they don't, they like bring in these elements that always add to it in a way that like expands on the idea.
Yep. And then that's how the word sämäs kind of became what it is, because we would describe things that pinged with us a certain way, like, oh, that's sämäs, or like, this has sämäs vibes. Like, it kind of became this descriptor for that. What's that when your nerves do that tingly thing?
Kismet? No.
Like, for, like... when you get those tingly feelings from music things or musical things or artistic things.
So we started using it as a descriptor word, and then it was kind of like, well, who's to say we can't apply this description to this word, which is how the word sämäs as like the noun, the thing that happens, like came about. Everything from there just kind of went together. Like, I went down to Flarf that year to take that singular promo shot, and then there's a photo of all five of us hanging out in your trailer, like the first time everyone got together.
Yeah.
From, Flarf happened in February. The West Virginia Renaissance Festival was in June. So pretty much from February through June, it was just like, okay, how do we put this together? Because you guys had booked Castle of Muskogee the very first weekend of June, I was going to have to do alone. So the show eventually is going to be the two of us, and that is what the meat of the show is going to be. But also in the side of my brain, I was like, plus I have to write a show that I can do by myself.
And it was amazing how much work she put into it for that. There was so much that she put together technologically, choreographically, like, I mean, musically, there were so many components.
Some of it was out of, like, a survival thing of, like, okay, if everything goes to crap, what can I do with this looper on a whim? I wanted to be able to, like, have a backing track system where if it was just me, I could, like, turn her harmonies up, like, quietly, but sing the main thing. Charlie was a bit of a, like, helper in that regard, because he had this backing track system set up, and I literally was like, hi, hello, how do you do that? For years, for both Serena and Valkyric, I had always wanted to use a system like that, but I had no idea how. I was like jerry-rigging a click track through my phone.
Mark had worked with Charlie at Epcot, and I remember going to Sam and being like, this dude rules, he knows what he's talking about. And I remember we sat at his house one day, and he was really helpful in showing us
just how everything was set. Literally, that was the time that it was like, here's how this program works, and I was like, yoink. So thank you, Charlie, for all of your infinite guidance and wisdom in that regard. I know one of the things that I wanted personally was I didn't want a show that was quite so limiting in terms of subject matter. You know, Serena was all very much like sea-themed, sirens, love, loss, ocean, and that was kind of...
The same thing with Valkyric, whereas Norse, Valkyrie...
Battle, subject matter-wise, whereas Serena and Valkyric had these very specific subjects to stick to and very specific branding. Sämäs, it was more about the musical journey itself, and that was one thing that's always been true from the very beginning. So the building of the music, you came to North Carolina, and we had like ideas of songs at that point.
Yeah, we put together pieces of things. Quake was really maybe one of the only ones that was from the ground up.
This mighty quake.
I had like an idea for this song about an earthquake, and like
you had some lyrics.
I did, yeah. And so Asia like kind of pulled up some like YouTube videos of these different like percussive elements.
Oh, YouTube with the RRR.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh my god, I forgot about that.
We were in our
so good
triple R phase.
So there were these pieces that we were like, okay, we want to bring these together. So we kind of like built the sound of it.
I remember just kind of sitting there like on the
keyboard,
along on the
MIDI keyboard, yeah.
Played around with like the rhythm of the words too, with like how that would scan. But that was just kind of like the beginning of it, and we just kind of like let that sit. Similarly with Sunken Shallows.
Oh, the devil's wearing black and we ain't coming back from here. Yeah.
You had come in with pretty much the whole first
chunk
of it.
I had the first chunk of it and then went, no, I don't know. And so you sent me this recording of her just going, and I was like, great, I can write lyrics to that. Yeah. Awesome.
And I remember being like, you know, like the Dead Men Tell No Tales thing? Yeah. Like, no, not even death is gonna stop us. And she was like, I got it. And then like came with this amazing thing. So it was really cool. I've never really collaborated like that. But that was kind of always the best thing, is that like I always call it my like verbal diarrhea. I'll just like verbal diarrhea for like 20 minutes at you and just like say random things.
Start the climb.
Ooh.
Your time.
You like somehow know how to filter it all because you're already on that same page and already have those same ideas.
Right. So basically I just take my phone, turn on the voice recorder, and I'm like, okay, talk to me. Like, tell me what are you thinking? And then she'll talk for like 10 minutes, and then I will sit there with this phone recording and go through and be like, okay, I can build, like, I'll like listen to what she's saying, and I'm like, ooh, yeah, I can hear that, and so then I'll work on like building a sound off of that.
That's because I don't have the incredible skills that she has to write music in the DAW.
Right. My skills were all built out of necessity. I can hear a bunch of stuff in my head, and then I have to go through the excruciatingly long process of like, how do I make these sounds happen in real life? And it's been at this point 15-year process of like building that skill set, and I still feel like I don't know what I'm doing.
Pretty amazing though and exciting. Like I remember we are at the Castle of Muskogee now, and I remember being at this show last year with Music the Gathering, and it was right after we had been at North Carolina, and you were like, oh, I worked a little bit more on Quake, and she sends me like, as we talk, like that whole part, and I was like backstage like she'd be like, oh, it's just like a demo, like I just added like a little bit on, and it's like these big drums, this like full things, these cymbal swells, this amazing like descent into hell in this song, and I even have goosebumps now thinking about it. So it's very cool that she'll, you know, a lot of times be like, oh, I just like threw this thing together, I have this demo, and then I'll listen to it and I'll be like weeping because it's like the most beautiful song I've ever heard. I'm like, yeah, I think this is usable.
I always feel like I'm scraping stuff together, and then all of a sudden looking back on it, I'm like, wait, that was a whole idea. There's a video of me somewhere. I have like set the whole sound system up. I've like set the tap boards up. I've like used the looper at this point, and I realize I'm like, nah, I have to actually like write some music to like set this up. And it sounds like I don't have a prayer in the world. So, just had like a day of playing around with stuff. Feeling kind of lost today. Everything is set up. All the drums and all that it all sounds good. But like now it's like time for material, and it's time for like the stuff. So now I have to like show up and deliver and have material and a purpose and a point to what I'm doing. I hope future me, when you're looking back at this, you like can be like, oh, don't worry, it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be great, even, because right now it doesn't feel great. Just not feeling it. Future Sam, hope you got it going on. A year later, I can say I think at least, you know, that did. But it all felt very weird at the time, because it was like, I don't know. We just had no idea if any of this was going to work. Even when we put songs together, it was like, okay, is the tap dance integration going to work? Is the concept going to work? Are people going to identify with it? And
you really took on that whole risk by yourself that first weekend, which was pretty
horrifying.
Courageous.
It was horrifying. I had the worst anxiety of my life, I think, that entire month. Tommy and I would be sitting in the hot tub at night, like, talking about things, and he was so excited, and I'd be sitting there being like, I just hope it works. And he was like, would you calm down? And, like, you've done, this is your third show. Like, it'll be fine. And I'm like,
and of course it was. It was very well received. There's no solo show like that. Like, it was an amazing solo show.
It worked. I've always just kind of had this core belief, like, I cannot hold a stage alone. And so just literally having to do that for a weekend and then coming out of it going, oh, well, I guess I can do that. Also, fun fact, it downpoured in the first song.
It did. Like, of course, why should it have been easy?
No. That said, once you came into the mix with both of us combined, it just
so fun.
Launched up another step, and it was like, yeah, this is...
Yeah, so she did the first weekend by herself, and then I got there about Wednesday the next week, and then that, I remember Thursday, Friday was sort of a whirlwind, because luckily she took videos of her like solo dress rehearsal like the Friday before.
Beat rocks, heavy leap down rock, steady me.
And I did what I did with the Serena videos, which on YouTube they have like the playback speed thing, and I would just slow it down and be like, okay, what's this tap choreography? What'd she do here? So I like watched the guy Impulsive. I remember here I was like taking videos in the cave of me doing the tap part. Like, is this correct? Is this what you were doing? Because she had put so much work in doing the solo thing, I didn't want it to have to then completely change again for the duo show. I kind of wanted to come in and just be able to match what was
add
going on
to that instead of having to shift a bunch.
I remember I had to wrap my drums.
Oh yeah,
that day, like there was just like so much just to do to even put the show on.
Yeah, because I don't even know, because your costume finishing too. So oh yeah, that's a whole part we left out, designing costumes for this thing. We had this idea of kind of this like Fifth Element rap. Like we knew we wanted the colors to be this kind of like teal and gold and with some undertones of black. We knew we had the idea, and then so we designed costumes, had a friend of
with,
ours
like the opposites. Like, if you'll notice, like hers has like the thing pointing down, mine has it pointing up. We want it like complementary.
Like as below, as above, that idea, you know, the link to the earth and the cosmos, like everything had that little bit of like intention to it.
Try the colors earthy, but with adding the golds kind of adds that like
cosmic
celestial
sun, element. And so our friend Jay built my costume in time for me to perform, and then built your costume in time for you to perform. So we had to like finish those fittings. We had to, like, the drums that I used, we wrapped with contact paper like the day or two before the solo show. So then you came in and we had to wrap her drums. Like it was literally like okay, like put it all together.
Everything was done only in the time that it had to be done.
And then somehow amazingly she comes in yet again, third time, just like knowing a bunch of this stuff. We rehearsed that Thursday.
Well, I knew a version of the show.
Yeah.
I'm definitely very confident at putting on something. It's not necessarily the same stuff that I play now, but
it was still good.
But yeah, I feel like as soon as that happened, those next 3 weekends were just like,
they flew by. And we like doing this thing where we have a goal of doing like a new song a week, and I feel like that happens pretty quickly, because I remember we had, I think, 5 songs the first week, and by the end of that run we had 7.
That's kind of funny with Listen. That's kind of how that song
oh my god. So, okay, Listen was literally my song to myself about having anxiety about the show. Like, that was like, calm down, just like be in the moment. I was standing on my deck and I was like, just listen to some birds singing, like, relax. So then I was like sitting there with the looper, like, okay, if I were going to make a song right now, what would it be like? And I literally did the looping for Listen and then just started singing on top of it through this like solo tap vocal song together, and told her, I was like, we don't have to keep this. This has just been like a little thing we've been doing.
I was like, but I really like this. And especially after you had performed it that first weekend, I was like, I think this is good. And I think I could do some harmonies on it. It's nice to have more with the tap, because we can only do so much tapping when we have to be
drumming as well.
Drumming so much. So I thought it was really nice to have something that had like kind of lighter tap and can have like the back and forth.
Yeah. She was literally like, don't change a thing. I'm going to just add stuff to it. And I was like, those are my favorite words. And so that was essentially how that version of Listen came about, where this duet version happened.
Between every worry, underneath the stresses of the day, down. The wild world whispers a symphony of perfect things to say, down.
It was literally the first song that all 5 members have now added on, because Arnie heard it and was like, oh, here, I just threw on some bass on this really.
Listen to the voice inside your mind, the quiet kind that takes you one step closer down the road you're meant.
And that, I remember first hearing that because he reharmonized.
Oh my god, he changed the chords.
And it was like, oh, that's what it always
has been,
was.
needs to be forever. So now I can't hear it without those chords in there, which I did not do. That was all him. On top of that, when we started sending things to Patty to add to, he's like, oh, I like threw these 3 violin tracks down quick, and then ended up harmonizing with himself, also adding new chords to the song.
Listen to the violet skies, the storm clouds as they wander. Listen to the raven fly, the bird song over yonder.
And that was cool. And then when you were in town this year doing all of the like finishing of the recordings, Mark just comes in and goes like, hey, like, I have this guitar part for this song, can I try it?
Take it to downtown. Take it to downtown.
So like everybody just heard it And I honestly think it was because, like, a lot of times when I write music, I don't leave a lot of space. I like a lot of wall of sound. I like filling in chords. I like big percussion. So, like, there's not a lot of room. Listen, by its nature, was more open. It was literally just like me, some tap dancing, and like me harmonizing vocally with myself. So there was space for everyone to add into, and I think everyone just saw the opportunity and went for it. Now Listen has all 5 members of sämäs
Which
on the
I
track.
love. I love that so much.
But yeah, so that was how the actual show all came together.
That's a fun behind the scenes tidbit. I feel like most bands do this, but we have not so secret names for what the songs are. Like the opening track, Wind Echoes, we call Windows because I think I just said that one day because I can't speak English well, and I'm always just constantly racing through my words, and
So now it's just stuck. So we call Wind Echoes Windows on the regular, like that is the name of that song.
We call Windows.
When we're not actually talking about it officially. Oh yeah, Night Road.
Dance the Night Away used to be called Night Road, and then Dance the Night Away again, and then Night Road again, and now it's back to Dance the Night Away.
Well, the problem is that there are so many songs called Dance the Night Away, but that is the most like kind of iconic lyric in that song, so we're just going to lean into it, and it's called Dance the Night Away, but I still out of habit call it Night Road because it's built in like that.
You have to say, like, one special thing about sämäs, I feel like, is that we've had just a lot of really incredible support from people, kind of from the get-go. People that just, like, know us and know what we're like, and I guess what we could be capable of, and just have been so generous. Like, Jay helped with
so much time with the costumes. Yep.
Lauren helped
take photos,
promo pictures.
My God, yeah. The entire reason we have a website is because Lauren came down and took photos for us, just because she was excited and wanted to support in the way that we could. And I feel like that's been, you know, Xander did that.
Yeah, Xander made us
Rascal
rendering, made gorgeous, like, really unique face jewelry, and Alessandra painted that incredible artwork that we use.
And that was like when we went down and took that very first photo, she's like, can I take a photo to do a painting for you? And we were like, absolutely. And she just did that for us as a gift and was like, please use this for whatever you want. And it was like, well, that's an album cover. That's our first album. That will be the thing. Us laying down in the parking lot.
Yeah, that was taken on the Flarf parking lot.
Yep.
But yeah, like Tommy, you were mentioning, you know, did so much, and still, you know, with the Kickstarter was doing so much.
I feel like he's been like
Agent Tommy.
Yes. Yeah. Like just a sämäs support from the very get-go.
One of my favorite things is he helped us book our really only non-fair gig in a lovely venue called Fay Nectar, just outside of Asheville in North Carolina. And we were like, yeah, thanks, Agent Tommy. And when he like went to go like speak on the phone with the guy, and he came back with some details for us, and he had like changed into a blazer. He had like
a briefcase.
Yes. He's like, okay, let's
walks in with like sunglasses on or something. He came in dressed for the part.
It was
like
amazing.
Yeah. That also came about just out of nowhere because they were in town. Like both years after Flarf, they came up to North Carolina. This year it was to finish like recording for the album and maybe doing some rehearsing for this. And there happened to be this festival at Fay Nectar. Tommy was like, you guys should perform. And immediately, me being me, I was like, no. And he was like,
a lot. It was like a few days later, so it was reasonable
he was asking about it on a Tuesday, and the show was Saturday. And like, I hadn't checked, like I would have had to like redo all of the backing tracks, and I was just like, that's so much work. And then I was thinking about it, and I was like, well, we did say we wanted to be show ready by that Saturday, and I guess there's no better way to do that than put together a show. And then she's sitting over here being like, yeah, we could do it. And Mark was there, and he was like, yeah, I can just figure out how to add myself into this show in 2 days. And I was like, okay.
And so we did it.
Yeah. And so that was like the first 3-person version of sämäs, and I felt so spoiled because it was so awesome having Mark on that big drum back there.
Yeah. As we get little glimpses of having the musical support from other people, it feels like we could really see what the potential of the show could be when there's
more people,
more hands.
In a perfect world, we would be able to tap dance a lot more in the show instead of having to like constantly do the percussion. Other people would be able to do like the live backing stuff, because right now we have like guitar in the backing track, sometimes the violin in the backing track, the bass in the backing track, but we have all of these people who can play all of that live and have contributed musically. So to be able to actually have them on stage. Also, the 5-part harmonies that y'all aren't ready.
Yeah.
Like,
may they only get grosser.
the music is built for it, and also when we're all together, we're all going to be able to write music for that setup specifically. So like right now we've kind of been like writing music for the incarnations of the show as they come, and the potential is only getting grosser.
I feel like every time I do deal with Two Devils, I hear Mark's moving line at that one part.
I love that part.
Now try and kill me
I'm
like
obsessed with that part.
Or like, you know, Patty's strings at the end of Dance the Night Away. It's like,
Yep.
And it was just kind of like things like that where people
Just kept happening.
connected with what we were trying to do with the music that you were writing, and that, and they just, that was their way of being a part of it. It was like art begets art kind of thing, where it was like,
Yeah,
it was
and it
inspiring
was-
other people to create things that they were just generous enough to help.
And it felt so like every step of the way, it was just like people were just more and more excited, and it was so humbling to have so many people come out of the woodwork and be like, what can I do? How can I help? And then just...
Including Mark, Arnie, and Patty, who were like,
Right.
yes!
Oh, they were
let's
so
do
in.
this. Like, we weren't sure. Obviously, you know, we thought of them and we were like, okay, that would rule, but
in
you
a
know,
perfect world, like, who would our dream band be? And so we, like, list off, you know, like, I remember thinking of, like, incarnations of Valkyric forever ago, where I was like, I just wish Arnie could be there, like, playing some sick, like, synth and bass
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah,
and,
yeah.
like, having those dreams like that. And then once I met Patty, being like, oh my god, like, you hear these same chords, and it would be so cool to
Yeah.
have you come and do, like...
And even before we had, like, you know, any contracts, anything, like, when we were
Right.
just kind of, like, fantasizing about the idea of, like, hey, it would be cool to make music, some
With
kind of
these
music
people.
together. Like, we just kind of threw it out there as, like,
Yeah.
oh, they won't want to, but they were like,
They all did.
this sounds cool.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, maybe we have something here.
Yeah. And it's just kind of grown from there, and...
Charlie, as we mentioned, too.
Yeah, yep. Charlie, then, like, adding in all of his, like, not only his technical wisdom, but, like, the percussive elements that he likes adding in. And so I feel like we're just going to keep going and growing as we get the opportunities. And hopefully we will get the opportunity to play a show with all of us at one point.
Yes.
So
That's the dream.
the dream. So we hope you enjoyed this insight into the creating of the sämäs.